Welcome back to Beyond the Silence podcast. I am your host, Lisa Toma. And today, once again, I have your favorite and my favorite sister, Lori Muya, back on the show for very good reason. Actually, there is never a bad reason. But if you have not seen the previous episode, I highly recommend that you go watch that first and then come back to this episode. And the reason for that is because I felt like I really wanted to have my sister back on today, especially following the previous episode that I had with Josephine Carmela, who is a transformational feminine coach, and she personally worked with myself as well. However, she's also worked with my sister, which is the reason why I wanted to bring my sister back on, because I feel like there was so many things that Josephine said on the previous episode that were just so transformational. But even just the work that we did with her ourselves, I wanted to really talk about that because I feel like there's so many messages there that I know that would resonate with a lot of people.
Yeah.
So welcome back.
Thanks.
So let's start with, I shared a little bit about the impact Josephine had in my life. And I know that because you saw or you witnessed my growth through my work with Josephine, it really inspired you to want to work with Josephine as well. So maybe let's start with, what was it that made you want to work with Josephine or felt the desire to work with her? Yeah, I was going to ask you another question, but I feel like that's such a loaded question. Like, where were you in your life that you said to yourself, I need to see Josephine?
I was at a point where I found myself in the same place in every part of life. And it got to a point where I knew it isn't because of anybody else, it was because of me.
Ooh.
And I've known for years that, I have a hard time saying no or having to make everybody else I guess, happy above me. And I realized I knew I had a hard time with it, but I didn't understand why and how come I can't just say no, or I need this, or I'm not okay with that.
Yeah.
And I honestly thought, like, what the hell is up with me? Like,
I was just going to
not
say
that
that.
there was anything wrong with me, but like, why is it so hard? And when I started to speak with her off the bat, and this is where I knew is where it all stemmed from. She had me answer a few things in advance, and the first thing that was asked was, what did I not get as a child that I needed? So off the bat, I was like, this was a mistake.
Hold on. Whoever's listening and watching, I just want you to stop. I just want to pause for a second. And I really want people to reflect on this question because it is such a powerful question that I don't just want to bypass it.
Yeah.
Can you repeat that?
So it was actually, what did I not get that I wish I did as a child?
I just want everybody to take a second and really reflect on that. Maybe that's something that, you can reflect on from the past or something that you can reflect on right now. What is it in your life that you need or that you needed as a child that you need now? Is that correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
And after that, so I made a whole list. I had a long list. And I realized there were a few things that were on that list that I listed more than once. But in the moment, I didn't have any idea.
I remember this.
And then the following question was, so it was asking that what I wish I got from my mom and dad.
Okay.
And then after that, it asks what I want in a partner.
Okay.
So I was like, okay, so I made a list. And I remember I was in my condo, I was on the couch, and I was analyzing all my lists. And that's when I had a meltdown. because everything that I put on that list of what I wish I had as a child, I had that on my list of the things I wanted in a partner.
Ooh.
I wanted to be heard. I wanted to be seen, understood, loved. And the biggest thing was I want to feel safe.
Yeah.
And I had it on all my lists.
And correct me if I'm wrong, is the safety not the one that you accidentally wrote twice or three times without even realizing?
It was. And I realized that that's where I knew I had to start. I had to start from giving myself what I didn't get as a child because, and I spoke about this in, I think, my first episode on here,
Yeah.
that I was trying to find everything that I needed in a partner and I always ended up on my own. And in that time, when I had gone through all my lists, I realized I need to learn how to give everything I need to myself first.
Yeah. Wow. And it actually goes back to everything Josephine and I spoke about.
Yeah.
That in order to start healing, right, you need to find that safety. And sometimes we look outside of ourselves for that safety. And, I know it's like such a common saying, but everything that we need is within ourselves. So, can you talk about where you went from there? Did you create your own safety? Did you learn how to create your own safety? Where did you go from after you made this list and realized that all of the expectations or all of the things that you were looking for in a partner was a reflection of your unmet needs as a child?
So from there, where I started was I was actually at that time, I was in a position where I was very unhappy with, I guess, a situation.
Yeah.
And I think you know what I'm talking about.
Was it a relationship that you were in?
Yes.
Okay.
And I wasn't okay, and it was a big thing.
I remember.
Whereas in the past, I would have had a drag because I didn't know how to stand up and speak about it. I didn't want to maybe make the other person upset. I felt like a baby even just talking about it. Like, oh, she's being a suck, or she's being
a suck. Okay.
or like what were you gonna say, a brat?
No, yeah, like a brat or
No,
like
and it was a big thing. And so I spoke to her about it, and she explained to me, speaking up about what you aren't okay with is a form of self-love. It's asking for what you need and having to set a boundary. And I was like, a boundary? What
is that?
What the hell is that? I was like, I'm fine with everything.
I need a dictionary.
I like explode and I'm like, I leave. So,
ooh, remind me to go back to that.
yeah. And so after I spoke up about it, I was okay after. I was like, wow, like I didn't die. Like, I'm safe.
Yeah.
And a choice had to be made at that point after I asked for, or after I didn't really ask for it, I had to express, what I was okay with and what I'm not okay with. And I remember standing in my condo like a dork, like afterwards I was done. I was like, oh my God, I did it. Like, I'm so proud of myself. And I was like, oh my myself. I did it. And I think I even called you after. I was like, I did at least. She's like, oh my God, no way. Yeah. So anyways, so she explained to me that once I start to do things like that and actually honor and stand my ground in the things that I'm okay with and that I'm not okay with, and I'm not going to die as I'm doing it in all the stages of it, that's what builds my confidence, and that's what gives me that love that, I can take care of me. And I just started to, I guess, implement that more and more after that.
I feel like when you are in an environment where you feel so unsafe speaking your truth, it's not something that's just like, I can say to you, just use your voice. Like speak up for yourself. It's not that easy because you actually feel sick in your body.
Oh no, Leah, I would sweat. I would get hives, and like even just talking about it, I
know
I'm getting hives.
And that's what I'm
all
saying. Like
here.
That was the imprint in your nervous system, right?
Yeah.
Like it is so unsafe for me to speak my truth, to use my voice, to say what I want and what I need, or if something's bothering me.
Yeah.
And that felt so scary for you. Your nervous system literally, and I'm not even saying this as a joke, can't determine the difference or can't distinguish the difference whether you are being chased by a bear,
Yeah.
right? Or that there's no threat. Your body is still going to react the same way. And because it felt so unsafe for you to do that. And once you did it through Josephine's guidance and empowering you
Yeah.
to say, I can do this, you're like, oh my God, I did it. And now the
Yeah.
next time is going to be a little bit easier. But the thing that I said to remind me to come
Yeah.
back to is, can you talk a little bit about
I hate when you do this. I never know what you're gonna ask me. Talk about it. I'm like, no. Off the bat. What?
No, this is actually really important.
These
Okay.
are these are the ones I hate to answer.
You ready?
Cut. No, I'm joking. Go.
Okay. I want you to talk about what happened to your body when you continued to suppress
Oh
your.
God.
Hold on. What happened to your body when you continued to suppress your feelings, when you continued to suppress your truth, and when you continue to suppress your desires and what you truly wanted for your life? What happened?
And cut. No.
What happened? You called me and you said,
I called you a lot.
yeah, you did.
I called you and said, I think this is the conversation that you're talking about. I'm not okay. I don't feel okay. I don't even feel like me anymore. In every way, like my body, I was inflamed. And mind you, this is maybe a couple years after I first started to work with her, because that first thing I was speaking about, that happened a few years, like a couple years back. So now I'm at a point where I know all the tools, but I'm still stuck in that place where I'm scared to speak up again. I found myself back there. So, and also the same things will happen over and over again until you've learned.
1000%.
It will keep happening. Thanks. So anyways, it came up again, and again, I didn't learn. I knew, but my body ended up inflamed. I don't even know if it was a gain of weight, but my whole body changed.
It was
both.
cortisol.
Yeah.
Like when you have high cortisol, which is
Yeah.
our stress hormone, you do get inflamed.
Yeah.
In your face, like
Everywhere.
That belly part that like is impossible to lose. Like that can be a result of very high cortisol.
I had hives.
You had hives and a
Everywhere.
rash.
I had
Everywhere.
hives all over, and I thought, what the heck?
They were
is
welts, like
happening?
literally welts.
Yeah. And I went through a whole thing where
You didn't change your diet.
no, everything was still the same.
Yeah.
But emotionally and my nerves, I was shot. Like everything was shot. And even up to the point where I got a haircut that like I chopped it off. I went like black, like everything inside and out of me had changed. And I remember just crying. Every day I cried for God knows how long, to the point where I felt like a shell of myself. Like I felt, I was numb.
Yeah, that's also like a trauma response too, right?
Yeah.
And all of this because you were stuck in a space and
Yeah.
a relationship that didn't align
No.
with your desires, right? It didn't align with how you truly envisioned your life. And you didn't honor, you couldn't honor without shame, right?
Yep.
You couldn't honor what you wanted and what you needed.
And I also learned that I thought for the longest time that there's something wrong with me. How come I can't just be a partner who does this and is okay with that and is okay with this? Until I actually stopped and learned that just because I'm not aligning with what he was asking for or needed, it didn't mean I'm this bad person. It's just we didn't align in our values and our expectations. And I reached a point where I had like a breakdown. Like I
No, you
it was
did.
bad. Like how I ended up at your house on that day, you looked at me and you didn't even know what
I
to do
knew,
with me.
I
Or at
knew,
least that's what
yeah, I
it
knew
looked like.
exactly where you were
Yeah.
because I've been there.
Yeah.
And I knew what you needed,
Yeah.
right? I just needed you to learn what you needed because that wasn't something that as my little sister and as your big sister, and seeing you in so much pain was so hard for me. I
Yeah.
wanted to shake you. I wanted to shake you.
Slap me a little.
Right? But because I've already been on my journey and because of the work that I do, I knew in my heart that I couldn't rob you from that lesson. Because
Yeah.
if I did, I know you would have found yourself back in
Yes.
other situations. And this wasn't just with relationship. You also felt very guilty saying no to our family, to me, if I needed help. Like,
Yeah.
right? You just saying no to even just people in our family, you felt that you were, what's that word?
I let you down, or I'm not there when you
Yeah.
needed me.
Or you're not enough if you're not doing
No.
something for us
No.
that we're asking of you, regardless of how you felt about it. When we don't have boundaries, there's a lot of people in our life who benefit from that.
Yes.
Agreed?
Just like we always say, the only people who will have issues when you have a boundary are the people
100%.
who would have a benefit from you not having
That's
any.
right. So when we don't have boundaries, there are going to be energy suckers, right? People who are going to feed off of you not having boundaries because it is so convenient for them that
Yep.
you don't have boundaries. And you will notice, so I don't even have to ask you the question because you already knew where I was going with this. You will notice that the people who are the most uncomfortable with you setting boundaries are the people who benefited from you not having any boundaries in the first place.
Yeah.
And it is so obvious to see where and who you need to take your power back from.
Yeah.
Agreed?
Agreed. And I feel like that's the point that I reached in my life, that I knew I had to start actually doing all the work with the tools that I had.
Yeah.
Because when I started to speak up and have a boundary with a lot of things, that's when the issues really started. And I felt like I was a bad guy for speaking up, because that's how I felt in the moment when I expressed.
Because you were
my
shamed,
boundaries. Yes, I was shamed. And
which is probably the reason why.
or a guilt trip.
But exactly. But what I'm saying is those are probably very familiar feelings as to why you silenced your voice in your childhood to begin with. Because speaking your voice, there was that feeling of shame and guilt attached to it.
Yeah.
That when you were trying to use your voice again, now once again you're experiencing the cycle of shame and guilt around speaking your truth.
Yeah, and on that too, every time I did it, I was made to feel that I was wrong. Why? Again, shame. So for the longest
Gaslighting.
time, I thought, what's up with me? Like, how come like how come I feel how I'm feeling, where when I hit the point of like, I can't stay in this space anymore, I gained that, I guess, awareness and a form of a self-love. Like, no, there isn't anything wrong with me or you. I'm just not okay with this.
100%.
And I don't care what you say, how you feel. It sounds harsh to say it loud. Like, I don't care like how you feel. I get it, but it's not going to change how I feel.
Absolutely.
And that's the point where I honestly had a breakdown, and I reached my lowest point in every way, like inside everything about me, I felt like I was at my lowest point. When it reached a point, I was crying like a little girl, like
Your
crying,
little girl inside was
sobbing,
crying. Yeah.
sobbing. And I hadn't cried like that in a long
I know.
time. And I told you, the last time I cried that hard from
Laura, I saw
from
you.
the pit of my stomach was when was was on the day that I saw mommy
At the funeral home.
in her coffin.
Yeah.
That I hadn't cried that hard since then.
Yeah.
And that's when I knew I was so tired of my own shit. And it isn't exactly like I'm tired of everyone else's. I was
Yes.
tired of myself allowing everyone
Yes.
else's shit.
Yes.
I was over it.
No, the reason I'm saying that is because sometimes we can get so stuck in victim
Yeah.
that if we are sitting here and we're blaming everybody else for how we're feeling, there's absolutely no growth in that. You
None.
can't grow from that place,
Yeah.
right? So now you are going to continue to be a victim and you are going to continue the cycle over and over and over
And it was.
because you were a victim. Not just you, I'm just saying in general.
Yeah.
Right? And when you don't have that self-awareness, when your ego is so involved, and when you just let your ego down and be able to take full responsibility, not for other people's actions.
No.
Because everybody carries their own baggage.
100%.
Emotional
Yeah.
baggage. Everybody carries their own traumas, right? And the way they show up in the world and the reasons behind that. But you are responsible for you.
Yes.
Right? You are responsible for what you tolerate. And another thing is that the way we love ourselves is going to be a reflection of how we allow or how we teach others to love us.
Yes.
Right?
Because you teach people how to treat you.
100%. And if we don't have that self-love, if we are lacking that self-worth, that value of ourselves, we will allow people to treat us from that place.
Exactly.
So what I want to say next is, we talked about the effects of the influences of us not having boundaries in the first place, the effects of not honoring our true self, and the effects of not having boundaries. People, I remember when I was talking about setting boundaries for myself, I didn't even know what that meant. How do you even set boundaries? What are boundaries? Even?
I will not allow this. How
Right?
do you do it, right?
We talked about right. And we talked about this at the beginning where we're like, boundary, what is that?
What's that?
But it's important. It's important for everybody to understand that yes, you can learn how to set boundaries, right? You can get a book and you can read about how to set boundaries, right? A step-by-step guide. Ultimately, I felt like I did not learn how to set boundaries, right? The more I started to love myself. How do you do that? How do you love yourself when you don't even know that you're lacking self-love, right? For me, I felt like I noticed in my body what I truly desired.
I feel like with me, how I started and what I still do now, and it can just be anything small, right? I would ask in my mind, why is making them happy more important than me?
100%.
Or why? Because every time you say yes to something you don't want or you're not okay with, you're saying no to yourself.
Yeah.
And every time I'm like, shit, I don't want to do that. I just tell them no, like, oh my God, again. And
So
I'm not-
uncomfortable.
I'm not okay with this.
Yeah.
I would say like, why am I making it easy for them and just saying yes and accommodating, but not for myself? Why are they more important than me?
They're not.
And I started to do it with just small things. And as I did it, I'm like, hey, I can't do this. I can't do this.
Yes.
And
The
then
practice.
and then I reached a point where I was just like, no, I'm sorry. And I'm now starting to learn that I can say no, and no is a sentence.
Yeah, and there's no guilt behind that.
Yeah,
So
so-
beautiful. So good.
So yeah.
So Lori, thank you so much for being here. I want to end.
Lori, you call me Lori.
I know. Thanks. I never
Thank
call
you,
her Lori.
Lori.
Thank you, Laura, for being here.
So formal.
I know, right? Thank you, Lori. I know I never do that.
Oh, that was
But
weird.
honestly, thank you again for being here. I love having you on. I know I'm going to have you on again, but I just want to end by just, for the listeners or for the viewers, there was like a common thing that my sister kept bringing up, and it was always like, why am I like this? Why do I do this? And I feel like it's so important because you can't give yourself love from that space. You can't send yourself love when you're judging yourself, saying, why am I like this? Why do I do this? So I feel like the important thing to do is to reframe that and not ask yourself, why am I like this or why do I do this? But the question you should be asking yourself is, what do I need right now? What do I need right now? What can I give myself right now to feed myself? And when we start reframing our questions, it is so transformational. And then you can start sending yourself so much love and so much compassion and build from there. So, Lori, remind everyone again where they can find you.
My favorite part. You can find me on Instagram at lori.muyabeauty.
Thank you. And you can find me on Instagram at This Is Healing Official, TikTok, This Is Healing Official, and on my website at www.thisishealing.ca.